Have you ever found yourself surrounded by individuals who drain your energy, create unnecessary drama, or lead you away from your goals? Stoicism, a philosophy rooted in wisdom and resilience, offers profound insights into identifying and steering clear of these toxic influences. In this video, we'll explore 15 types of people that Stoicism warns us about, individuals who can hinder your progress and disrupt your peace of mind. From the overly negative to the manipulators, we'll dissect their traits and share practical tips on how to distance yourself from them. Remember, your environment shapes your mindset. So, let's embark on this journey together and arm ourselves with the wisdom of the Stoics. Grab a seat and let's get started. Also, if you observe individuals in your life displaying these traits, it is prudent to extricate them from your surroundings without delay. Before we commence this discourse, I wish to extend my gratitude for your viewership. If you find value in our content, please do not forget to like this video. For those watching who have yet to subscribe, I encourage you to do so and activate the notification bell for more transformative Stoic insights. Number 1. The Flatterer. Among the toxic personas that Stoicism cautions us against is the flatterer. This individual inundates us with insincere accolades and commendations, not out of genuine admiration, but rather in pursuit of their own interests. Their ulterior motive is to secure our favor through the artifice of excessive praise. The Stoics counsel vigilance against such flatterers, urging us to pierce the veil of their manipulation cloaked in false praise. While a heartfelt compliment may be well received, an overwhelming cascade of flattery often harbors ulterior intentions. The flatterer may seek to ingratiate themselves to us with the intent of soliciting a favor, augmenting their power or influence through our validation, or merely inflating their own ego by securing our admiration. Regardless of the flatterer's ulterior motives, their exaggerated praise serves as a means to their self-serving ends, rather than a true reflection of our virtues. The Stoics admonish us to remain discerning, questioning the motivations behind any overzealous commendation, and to exercise caution in ascribing undue weight to the flatterer's words or yielding to their demands. Insincere accolades confer no genuine benefit upon us. The wise course of action is to see beyond the flattery and discern the true intentions of the flatterer. Number 2. The greedy. Another toxic archetype that the Stoics alert us to is the greedy. These individuals are ensnared by their insatiable desires for material wealth and possessions. Their relentless avarice obscures both their judgment and character. For the greedy, the relentless pursuit of wealth, possessions, and status is the primary impetus of their existence. They perpetually yearn for more, never achieving a sense of sufficiency. Even when they find themselves materially affluent, their greed remains unquenchable. Such individuals will scheme, exploit, and disregard the welfare of others in their relentless quest for accumulation. To the greedy, life is perceived as a zero-sum game. Their gain inevitably translates to loss for others. They exhibit an unwillingness to share, driven by an overwhelming desire to hoard everything for themselves. Furthermore, their greed cultivates a profound sense of insecurity. No quantity of wealth can satiate their hunger for more. The Stoics discern that greed emanates from a mindset of scarcity. The greedy are never at peace, perpetually feeling a void that cannot be filled. In stark contrast, the Stoics advocate for the liberation found in contentment with sufficiency, directing our focus toward values of true worth, character, wisdom, and serenity. The greedy possess a distorted perspective, prioritizing the acquisition of wealth and material possessions over virtuous living and tranquility. Their judgment is invariably clouded by an insatiable appetite for more. The Stoics caution us against emulating the greedy or harboring envy toward their wealth. More does not equate to better. True fulfillment is derived from within, not from external gains. Number 3. The envious. Another toxic archetype the Stoics advise us to shun is the envious individual. These are people who harbor resentment towards the talents, successes, or possessions of others. Their lives are a continuous cycle of jealousy toward what others possess. The envious perceive another person's good fortune as a detriment to their own well-being. They operate under a scarcity mindset, viewing life as a zero-sum game, believing that when someone else succeeds, it diminishes their own potential for success. Such a perspective breeds resentment, insecurity, and animosity. In response to these feelings, the envious often seek to undermine those they envy. They may belittle the talents of others, dismiss their achievements as mere luck or privilege, and engage in the spread of malicious gossip. Essentially, they attempt to diminish those whom they perceive as superior. Envy also engenders spitefulness, as the envious cannot bear to witness another's success. Instead of drawing inspiration from others' accomplishments, they choose to sabotage. The envious person resorts to snide remarks, delivers backhanded compliments, and secretly revels in the misfortunes of those they envy. The Stoics recognize envy as a form of involuntary moral weakness arising from a lack of wisdom. However, they emphasize that we possess the agency to choose whether or not to act on these envious impulses. The wise path is to regard others with goodwill and to celebrate their successes rather than resenting them. We ought to find inspiration in the talents of others, allowing them to motivate us to cultivate our own virtues rather than succumbing to the trap of envy. Number 4. The angry. Another problematic personality type the Stoics warn us about is the chronically angry individual. These persons are susceptible to frequent outbursts of rage, bitterness, and desires for revenge. Their temper often eclipses their reason and judgment. The angry individual is easily triggered by minor provocations, whether real or perceived. They tend to interpret the actions and words of others through a lens of negativity, taking offense at the slightest affront. They harbor grudges for extended periods, refusing to forgive or let go. Stoicism identifies the roots of anger as thwarted desires coupled with a profound sense of helplessness. The angry person feels deprived of what they believe they deserve from the world, fostering resentment and an urge to retaliate. Rage and vengeance become their means of asserting control over their circumstances. When engulfed by anger, such individuals lose their capacity for clear thinking or constructive action. Their temper clouds their ability to reason, leading them to speak harshly and act impulsively, exacerbating rather than alleviating the situation. The Stoics advise us against emulating the angry. While anger may arise involuntarily, we possess the power to choose our responses. The prudent course of action is to pause and gain perspective when provoked. Allowing ourselves to be swept away by anger only serves to poison our lives. Instead, we should act from a place of reason and self-control, eschewing petty grudges and resentment. As Epictetus wisely stated, any person capable of angering you becomes your master. Number 5. The complainer. The chronic complainer represents yet another tiresome personality type that the Stoics counsel us to avoid emulating. Complainers are perpetually engulfed in negativity, criticizing and lamenting their circumstances at every turn. They are purveyors of gloom rather than light. The complainer finds fault with nearly everything: the weather, the government, their employment, and even their relationships. Minor imperfections are magnified into significant grievances, leading them to adopt the belief that nothing is ever satisfactory. Rather than take constructive action to remedy their situations, they simply whine and wallow. Playing the victim, they adopt a stance of powerlessness when, in truth, they could take proactive steps to improve their lives. The complainer craves the sympathy of others, often broadcasting their grievances widely to garner attention. This perpetuates a cycle of negativity that ensnares both themselves and those around them. What they fail to realize is that their venting only solidifies their unhappiness, creating a toxic mindset. As Epictetus wisely observed, if you wish to improve, be content to appear clueless or stupid in extraneous matters. The Stoics teach us to shun the behaviors of complainers. While we may encounter difficulties, excessive lamentation only exacerbates our woes. It is far wiser to concentrate on maximizing what we can control, taking constructive actions rather than wallowing in negativity. Hardships are an inescapable part of life, yet we determine whether we confront them with wisdom and resilience or succumb to futile complaints. Number 6. The self-pitying. Another tiresome archetype that the Stoics urge us to avoid is the self-pitying individual. These people revel in their misery, portraying themselves as perpetual victims. The self-pitying individual shirks responsibility for their circumstances, blaming others, fate, or the universe for their troubles, anything but themselves. Their mantra is often, "Poor pitiful me, I deserve better in this unjust world. This mindset breeds feelings of powerlessness and resentment. The self-pitying individual expects others to coddle them and rectify their predicaments, broadcasting their tales of woe in search of sympathy and reassurance that they are not at fault. However, this victim mentality ensnares the self-pitying person, preventing them from taking accountability or action to improve their situation. Their self-absorption extinguishes any compassion they might have for the struggles faced by others. The Stoics warn against the allure of self-pity, advocating for a balanced perspective on life's vicissitudes. Instead of indulging in wallowing when faced with adversity, we should focus on what we can control and cultivate resilience. Challenges are an inevitable part of existence, but we decide whether we confront them with maturity or melodrama. As Marcus Aurelius articulated, begin each day by telling yourself, "Today I shall meet with interference, ingratitude, insolence, disloyalty, ill will, and selfishness, all due to the offender's ignorance of what is good and evil." Number 7. The arrogant. Another toxic personality type the Stoics caution us against is arrogance. Arrogant individuals possess an inflated sense of self-importance and superiority over others. Their excessive pride blinds them to their own flaws and their true standing in the world. The arrogant individual presumes themselves to be perpetually right, believing they excel at everything they undertake and are inherently deserving of special treatment. They are convinced of their superior talents, intelligence, status, and entitlements. This delusion leads them to condescend to others and to perceive advice or criticism as beneath them. Such an arrogant disposition fosters intolerance, disrespect, and hostility toward those they deem inferior. The arrogant person is incapable of recognizing their mistakes or limitations, as doing so would dismantle their inflated self-image. Their pride leaves little room for humility or self-reflection, rendering them unteachable. They dismiss constructive feedback that could facilitate their improvement or encourage greater consideration for others. Furthermore, their need for dominance and recognition impedes their ability to forge genuine connections, as relating to others as equals does not fulfill their desires. The Stoics warn against the folly of arrogance, advocating for the cultivation of humility and an acknowledgement of our human fallibility. True pride should stem from living virtuously rather than from an inflated sense of self-importance. As Marcus Aurelius astutely observed, you have no right to pass judgment on others at all. Their natures are the ones responsible. Their dispositions have become as they are under compulsion of character and necessity. Number 8. The selfish. Another problematic personality type addressed in Stoic teachings is the selfish individual. Such individuals prioritize their own interests above all else, showing little consideration for how their actions affect others. The selfish person typically views situations through the lens of, "What's in it for me?" Their decision-making process revolves around personal gain, often neglecting the collateral effects on those around them. This self-serving attitude leads them to exploit others, disregard the needs of those they encounter, break promises, and neglect responsibilities that do not serve their immediate interests. They perceive no ethical dilemma in benefiting at the expense of others, as their excessive self-interest blinds them to their social obligations. Consequently, they develop a reputation for untrustworthiness and disloyalty. While the selfish individual may achieve short-term gains, they ultimately sacrifice relationships and respect over time. Their cynicism and exploitation breed conflict and isolation, depriving them of the fulfillment that arises from mutual care and support. The Stoics caution that selfishness is ultimately a hollow pursuit. As social beings, we are meant to coexist harmoniously rather than in conflict. Seeking to uplift others imbues life with greater meaning than elevating oneself alone. As Marcus Aurelius wisely stated, what brings a person tranquility is to do what's right and to be focused on the well-being of his fellow man. Number 9. The stubborn. Another problematic personality type examined in Stoic philosophy is the stubborn individual. These individuals cling rigidly to their opinions and steadfastly refuse to entertain reason or compromise. Their inflexibility renders them difficult to engage with. The stubborn person insists on having things their way, regardless of circumstances. They are either unable or unwilling to consider alternative perspectives, advice, or possibilities. Even the clearest evidence contradicting their beliefs will not sway the stubborn individual's entrenched position. This rigidity breeds resistance to change and personal growth. The stubborn person would rather persist in a falsehood than adjust their course and admit they were mistaken. Embracing a more thoughtful approach would necessitate the willingness to open their mind rather than clinging tenaciously to unfounded assumptions. Their rigid adherence to their views also prevents them from accommodating the needs of others. In relationships and collaborations, interactions become power struggles, characterized by the mindset of my way or the highway. This behavior tends to alienate those around them. Stoicism teaches us the folly of such inflexible stubbornness. While principles hold significance, the wise individual maintains flexibility in their application, employing reason and care. We inflict harm upon ourselves when we refuse to adapt to changing circumstances or heed the wisdom of others. Our objectives should center on truth and improvement, not on obstinately clinging to a fragile ego. Number 10. The insensitive. The insensitive individual lacks empathy and demonstrates little regard for how their words and actions affect others. Such a person fails to pick up on social cues or grasp differing perspectives. They remain tone-deaf to what may hurt, offend, or upset someone, recklessly pursuing their agenda without consideration for the consequences. This insensitivity fosters hurt and resentment. The insensitive individual leaves a trail of bruised feelings, anger, and devalued individuals, yet remains oblivious or indifferent to the harm they cause. They do not reflect on how to conduct themselves with greater tact and care. Their harshness and lack of empathy tend to alienate those around them. Mean-spirited humor, blunt criticism, and callous disregard erode goodwill and trust. Relationships with insensitive individuals remain superficial, as no one feels secure enough to be vulnerable in their presence. Stoicism advocates for the cultivation of greater empathy, compassion, and care in our interactions. While we cannot control how others receive us, we should strive to engage with kindness and consideration. Thoughtlessness yields discord and isolation, whereas thoughtfulness fosters understanding and community. As Marcus Aurelius noted, a wrongdoer is often unaware that he is doing wrong. Number 11. The cynical. Another toxic personality type addressed in Stoic philosophy is the cynic. Cynical individuals dismiss sincerity, idealism, and goodness as signs of gullibility or foolishness. Their reflexive skepticism poisons hope and erodes community. The cynic assumes the worst about the motives behind any positive action. They hold virtues like honesty, compassion, and altruism in contempt, believing that no one genuinely upholds such principles. Their default posture is one of derision and distrust. This cynical outlook stems from disappointment, serving as a defense mechanism for their ego. By rejecting the notion of virtue as genuine, the cynic protects themselves from feeling naive for believing in goodness or from being let down when it fails. Yet, their skepticism becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, pushing others away and degrading the very ideals they doubt. The cynic's caustic remarks and readiness to doubt tend to alienate those around them. Their derisive humor and refusal to believe in the best of others corrode human connections. Beneath their protective scorn lies a profound sadness about the goodness they feel cheated of. Stoicism teaches us that while evil exists, we must retain faith in our collective potential for virtue and goodness. Cynicism is corrosive. It drains our ability to effect positive change within society. Despite experiencing disappointment, we must remain open to sincerity and collaborate to foster justice and compassion in the world. As Marcus Aurelius wisely stated, when you wake up in the morning, tell yourself, the people I deal with today will be meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest, jealous, and surly. Number 12. The manipulative. Another toxic personality type explored in Stoic teachings is the manipulator. Manipulators exploit and deceive others for their own personal gain. Their duplicity renders them untrustworthy. The manipulative individual approaches interactions as chess games, strategizing ways to secure advantages for themselves. They plot how to pit people against one another, twist situations to their benefit, forge false alliances, and coerce outcomes in their favor. This ruthless calculus makes the manipulator cunning, yet fundamentally untrustworthy. They cultivate a facade of goodwill and sincerity which merely conceals their self-serving agenda. The manipulator forges superficial connections, discarding individuals once they cease to be useful. Their motives invariably overshadow any genuine desire for connection. This exploitative approach to relationships ultimately backfires. While the manipulator may achieve short-term victories through their cunning schemes, their deceitfulness and betrayal of confidences inevitably catch up with them. People soon see through the manipulator's two-faced charade and refuse to be used any longer. The Stoics recognize that deceit and exploitation ultimately fail and lead to the isolation of the perpetrator. Treating others with sincerity and respect, recognizing them as fellow humans deserving of dignity rather than mere pawns, is the only ethical and prudent path. Manipulation can never foster true cooperation. Number 13. The reckless. Another problematic personality type discussed in Stoic teachings is the reckless individual. Reckless people take unnecessary risks, failing to consider the consequences of their actions. Their carelessness endangers both themselves and those around them. The reckless individual delights in courting danger, pushing limits with little forethought. They derive thrill from foolish gambles, ignoring warning signs, and engaging in hazardous behavior without precautions, seemingly convinced that rules do not apply to them. This recklessness ultimately breeds disaster. The reckless person leaves a wake of crises that could have been easily avoided through prudence and self-control. Their lack of discipline affects not only themselves, but also everyone impacted by their poor choices. Even when their recklessness causes harm, the reckless individual often fails to learn from their experiences. They rationalize their mistakes, evade accountability, and continue blindly indulging their whims. They neglect to cultivate wisdom through reflection on their errors. Stoicism emphasizes the importance of living rationally rather than recklessly. While courage certainly has its place, true bravery tempers boldness with reason, producing virtue rather than hazard. Recklessness ultimately benefits no one. We have duties to ourselves and to others to exhibit disciplined self-control, confront consequences, and learn from our mistakes. As Seneca wisely stated, nothing is more dishonorable than rashness. Number 14. The unprincipled. Another problematic personality type examined in Stoic philosophy is the unprincipled individual. These individuals lack integrity and moral standards, willing to go to unethical lengths to achieve their desires. The unprincipled person does not feel bound by concepts of right and wrong. They are prepared to lie, cheat, steal, betray, break promises, and harm others in pursuit of their ambitions. In their view, the end always justifies the means, leading to an anything-goes mentality. Such individuals operate without an inner sense of ethics or conscience. They have no qualms about deceiving those who trust them or exploiting the weaknesses of others for their own gain. For them, other people are merely obstacles or tools to be used. This unscrupulous approach inevitably backfires. The unprincipled become untrustworthy and despised once their duplicity is revealed. They leave a wake of disillusionment and lives scarred by their unethical actions. Any achievements they gain prove hollow, devoid of true fulfillment. Stoicism emphasizes that the pursuit of virtue and noble purposes is the only pathway to genuine success. While worldly ambitions may rise and fall, moral integrity endures. We must be prepared to relinquish all external possessions before sacrificing our inner principles. Ultimately, the unprincipled possess nothing of lasting worth. As Marcus Aurelius stated, a branch cut away from the branch beside it is simultaneously cut away from the whole tree. Number 15. The vicious. The final toxic personality type that Stoicism warns us about is the vicious individual. These malicious people take pleasure in cruelty, domination, and causing harm to others. Their callousness renders them profoundly dangerous. The vicious person perceives compassion as weakness and derives satisfaction from inflicting pain. They are bullies who terrorize the vulnerable to assert their power, or they engage in subtle torment of their targets, mentally and emotionally. Their aggression masks deep-seated sadism and insecurity. This destructive behavior poisons the vicious person's relationships and community. Their cruelty and exploitation of the weak breed fear and distrust, leaving trauma and despair in their wake. Their malice represents an illness of the soul, one that is contagious to all they encounter. Stoicism underscores that as social beings, our fates are intricately intertwined. Harming others ultimately harms ourselves. We must vigorously resist the allure of gratuitous cruelty, which destroys human dignity and bonds. True strength lies in uplifting others through empathy and care. The vicious pose a grave threat when they hold positions of power. Stoicism implores us to renounce and confront those who revel in causing harm. A healthy society allows no room for malice. As Marcus Aurelius noted, to harm others is to harm yourself. The vicious may seem to achieve temporary gains through their evil deeds, but in doing so, they lose their humanity. As we conclude our exploration of the 15 toxic personality types that Stoicism warns us about, remember that the journey towards wisdom and virtue is a lifelong endeavor. Each lesson we discussed today serves as a reminder to cultivate self-awareness and foster genuine connections in our lives. Reflect on the words of Marcus Aurelius. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Embrace this strength as you navigate the complexities of human interactions. Take a moment to share your thoughts. Which Stoic lesson resonated with you the most, and how will it shape your approach moving forward? Your insights can inspire others on this path of self-discovery. If you found value in our discussion today, please like this video and share it with those who may benefit. For more transformative content on Stoicism and personal growth, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell. Thank you for joining me on this journey, and may you continue to seek peace, resilience, and clarity in the Stoic way. Until next time, keep striving for wisdom.